Starburst from when I was a kid, the old American Wolf in London. You know when Rick Baker did the I mean, I don't know, it's obviously like a big thing, but when I was a kid, it was like, it was the reason I went out and saw, what the hell is that? The American Wolf in London, was because of the Rick Baker article in Starburst. That must have been 1980. Showing my age, but a long fucking time ago. And that was like, that was the sort of the reason I actually went into film, because of that, because of American Wolf in London. But anyway, long story, sorry.
Well, we're still around.
Yeah, did you are? Yeah.
No, we were just saying to Gary that we've not actually seen the movie yet. This
Have you not seen the movie? Well, Frank Laurie's seen it, and they hated it, so you've got to be nice to it.
Well, you're on a good thing, because our last film that we went to review was yesterday. We said we had to go and see Johnny English, so I think
you'd be better than Johnny English.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Was that? Well, how was it?
Oh, it was abysmal.
He says it's the worst film he's ever seen in his life.
I don't say that easily.
Yeah, it's very rarely that you'll actually go, oh my god, that was abysmal.
I was offended.
Really?
You've got to let start out.
Well, I mean, it had panned like before, and then they've reinvigorated it. It hadn't done very well in the first place. I mean, it had done great box office, but it wasn't critically good. Anyway.
Really do, yeah.
What's the point in keeping
so much money into this thing? Surely there's a lot of smaller movies in the UK now struggling to get through.
Absolutely, they do. Compared to that,
Johnny English, I've not checked the budget.
Oh, it's going to be sizable.
Yeah,
it's limitless. It's limitless.
Huge amount of money on something that they won't even one laugh all the way through it. It's criminal.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just got us extremely excited, especially the house. The house. We're excited to see the house as he described it. It sounds amazing.
The cottage, the cottage was fantastic. I mean, we found it in the middle of Wales. It's near Portmeirion, isn't it? We stayed in Portmeirion. We stayed in Portmeirion when we seen it, so that was kind of slightly surreal. And the guy that owned the cottage, Landequin it's called, and was related to the people that built Portmeirion, Richard Williams' house as well. So there's a strange connection. But I mean, it's literally in the middle of nowhere. This cottage, and it's a brilliant place to stage something like this. Challenging as well, it sounds like.
And what's your background? I mean, have you been to film school or?
No, I went to art school. I did fine art, practiced as a fine artist for a few years, and then I'd sort of taught myself editing.
Yeah. And
my sort of work sort of developed into screenwriting, and then I sort of got into editing to be a director, because if you don't go to film school, you don't get the opportunity to just be a director. Well, you didn't then anyway. There was no kind of, you couldn't make the easy sort of feature film, the 150 grand feature film like you can now, I guess, on DV then. So I sort of worked in editing, and I was writing, trying to get things going. And Retreat was the first thing that actually, that people responded to, and I got out there, and people liked and wanted to make, and allowed me to direct it.
So have you done any short films before that?
Not really, no. I mean, the reason I wrote it was because I'd spent years trying to make short films, and you could spend 6 months of your life, nearly a year of your life, preparing for short films, send it off to funding, and then get nothing. And so I sort of wrote a film originally that I could make on a small scale. That was the idea. It was a big idea on a small scale that I could get made. That I could that wasn't ridiculous. I wasn't trying to write a screenplay that had loads of fucking effects that nobody was ever going to give me the money for. And so that was part of the creation of Retreat. That was the idea.
It's very limited in terms of short films.
Well, there's none. It's a calling card, really. It's just like getting out your calling card, and that's fine, and it works. But it can take, unless you get the funding, then it will just take you years to kind of build that up. When you may as well just write a feature film that can realistically be made, and there's an audience and there's people for it, and you started. You're off the ground. That was the idea.
What was the casting process like? Because you got 3 really excellent stars.
Well, they responded to the screenplay. Like everybody that was at some point maybe attached to the film, or and then not attached. It was about the script more than anything. I mean, I hadn't directed anything, so I had nothing to show them. But I just went in with the screenplay, storyboards, mood tape, talked about it, and I think, for these 3 actors to sort of have the opportunity to be in you know, like as a three-hander where they can't hide behind anything and play roles that maybe aren't that typical for them. Well, you know, apart from Tanya's maybe played a similar role, but for Jamie and Killian, they're very different roles. It was 4 weeks and it was a certain amount of money, and then that was it. You know, so it was a no lose situation. You know, that's very good. And it was shot in 4 weeks. It was really quick. I had 1 week prep. You know, it took me years to get it going. It took me like 5 years from idea to actually turning over and shooting to, I guess it's 6 years now at this point, which is a year after we shot it. So it's like it took a very long time, and then I had 4 weeks to shoot it, which is ridiculous. So you know, and also you know, it's different. We were going to go with the studio, but when we went with location, you had to accommodate for the location, and that changed it quite a lot. And we had to shoot chronologically because we couldn't then unwreck the house. You know what I mean? We had to because we only had a limited budget, so it's like it could only go one way. So it was limited. It had limitations, but you know, we made the film.
How close is it to what you were intending?
It's close. You know, it's close. I mean, you know, there's the old cliche, which is films are made 3 times. You write them, you direct them, and then you edit them, and you sort of get halfway through the editing process, think, fuck, man, this is a complete mess, and then at some point it ends up being something like you started with in the beginning. But it just goes through like a massive thing, particularly films like this where you kind of, it is a big collaborative thing. When I first moved in, I was the least experienced person on the set. You know, I had a great DP in Chris Seeger, who's done had like loads of stuff, like 20, 30 years behind him with experience, and you know, so I was looking.
Who are your influences in filmmaking?
Fairly broad, but I mean, for this particularly, because I'm a big fan of Polanski, Roman Polanski, stuff like, you know, Knife on the Water, Cul-de-sac, Propulsion, The Tenant, Rosemary's Baby, very, very influential, just style-wise and thematically, and you know, the way he builds tension and his characters and stuff. Absolutely, I can only aspire to something like that.
So do you see this more horror or thriller?
Well, I was just talking about this, and it's like, you know, is it? I mean, it sits uncomfortably, you know, in none of those, and that's probably selling it really badly. But it's like, it kind of like Let the Right One In. Is that a horror movie or is that a thriller? Alien, is that a horror movie or is that a thriller? Is The American Wolf London a horror movie or a thriller? I mean, I know it's called Psycho. I guess that seems but they're all psychological thrillers, and there's all other elements to them which are about people as much as they're about, you know, it's about like the psychological horror, the situations, the horrible thing, as opposed to sort of maybe horror for its sake kind of thing.
Where would it be in Blockbuster?
Sorry?
If you walked into a Blockbuster, where would you find a tree?
Where would you find a tree? They don't have Blockbusters anymore.
They do.
Where?
They're hanging on by...
Where? They said it was none in London. It's all online, isn't it? You'd have to go to Amazon and check on the Thriller.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
That's the thing with genre, though. To pigeonhole it, you don't really need to do it, but it works for consumers.
It does, yeah. You know, I mean, you know, it's
and marketing as well.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. It's got to go somewhere. You know, it's got to be aimed at someone. It's going to work. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think, you know, does it have all the things that are going to work for a horror audience? I hope so. To a degree, I think it tests that. I think it certainly, you know, it tests that. That's what I'm saying.
I think I think each person's perception of horror differs from the next.
Yeah, completely.
Like
That's the point. That's the point. It depends what people are going to. You know, we played at Fantasia Festival in Montreal, and we played at Fantastic Fest, and you know the expectations. Sorry?
Is that where Fango saw it?
Yeah. Oh no, in Montreal, yeah, you know. And I had an interview anyway. No, it's fine. It's just that it was like you know. I think these festivals, they're very, you know, have expectations upon them, I think, and you know, like Don't Look Now, I guess was scary. Do we, you know, are we not torture porn? That makes sense.
Yes. What do you think of the whole torture porn?
I think it does what it's supposed to do. 10. It's it works. I mean, most of these things, when you look back to the things that hardly influenced them, were brilliant allegories on their time. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Driller Killer, Cannibal Holocaust. All these films that were actually really inventive and smart and made cool by really visionary people. Are sort of influencing films that are doing things for their own, sort of horror for their own sake. Sort of was against that. That's what I think.
I just think the less is more, approach. I think you can be your worst enemy, so your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's what's around the corner, what's coming next. That's the more interesting thing for me.
That'd be my best film, rather than. I do enjoy. I am go around. I do enjoy watching.
Well, exactly.
Sorry guys, just another couple of minutes because I've got to.
But I do prefer the story, like.
Sure, yeah.
You need
something to hook you in. You want a couple of people you care about. You either care about them or you don't. At the end of the day, and if you do, you'll go with it. If you don't, you won't.
Yeah.
Plans for the future after retreat then?
Well, I'm writing a London-based sort of action thriller at the moment, and I've got a supernatural thriller, for want of a better description, I'm doing, and then I'm reading a couple of things. So it's just all just wait to see what goes first. Yeah, absolutely.
When's retreat actually released?
October 14th.
Is this the first UK screen?
This is the UK premiere for Retreat, and it's out on October 14th. Friday, October 14th. It's here actually in Manchester at the AMC Cinema on October 14th. Alright?
Well, we're looking forward to seeing it. Next
We'll come and see, obviously.
Oh yeah? Yeah, we're going right now.
We didn't really expect this.
We thought we were just going to see 3 and then the Q&A. That's why kindly let us know.
I want to hear your questions after. That'll be really interesting.
Well, this is the thing, it's one of those, it's a bit like, it's almost like discussing a blind date before you've gone on it, you know what I mean? It's like, well,
exactly, I mean, I can only sort of tell you roughly, what you're going to write and stuff, but you'll see it and then you'll ask me questions after and you'll form your own opinion. You guys are all horror fans, right? So it'll be really interesting to hear what you've got to say. And like I say, you either go with it or you don't. That's fine. I think it pisses people off in a way, the film. So I don't mind too much. As long as they sort of take it in the spirit that it's not intended.
Interesting.
it's always better to get a reaction than
exactly, yeah.
If everyone walks out and goes, then it's just, that must be the worst.
Exactly, no, actually, it's cool because there's some bad stuff written about it that's really smart, and there's some good stuff written about it that's really dumb. So it's like, you take it, you know what's good and bad. It's cool.
No, it must be. For somebody who worked that long on the phone, it still must be the urge to pick the phone up.
I don't know. It's weird because it's like you get detached from something at some point, and then it becomes its own little thing, and it goes off, and then the criticism's heaped on you, but then it's sort of almost not. Because at the end of the day, I guess there's always the film. At the end of the day, you're just left with the film. Everyone is, and will be for like 20, 30 years. Films are re-evaluated and.
Oh yeah, I mean, the movie that was littered with stuff that came out and was derided, and 20 years later it's the greatest thing ever made.
It's insane, isn't it? Who knows what's. Who knows?
Very much looking forward to the film, yeah.
Good, no, please, I hope you enjoy it, and stick around for Q&A. Yeah, you can. Yeah, cool. Cheers, guys.
Nice meeting you.